The brakes must be opened and secured in place by operating the 17.1 and 17.2 ball valves. Bring the brake unit to its normal operating pressure. The normal operating pressure is the pressure that keeps the brake open during normal operation. A hand pump may be used to help raise the pressure to the required level. Unscrew the 4 mounting bolts. Remove the brake pad. Repeat the same process on the opposite side. Both of the brake calipers' brake pads must always be changed. To fit the upper brake pad, the entire brake mount must be moved upwards. Loosen the lock nut and tighten the adjusting nut until the brake pad can be inserted. Position the brake pad, grease the bolts well, and fit the brake pad using all 4 bolts. To fit the lower brake pad clearance must be enlarged. Open the 17.3 ball valve slightly and reduce the operating pressure to approximately the same level as the lift-off pressure. Close the 17.3 ball valve and turn the adjustment bolt towards the right until the brake pad can be inserted. Grease the bolts well and fix the brake pad using all 4 bolts. Loosen the adjusting nut until the upper brake pad has a maximum clearance of 2 mm. Turn the adjusting pole towards the left to reduce the lower brake pad clearance to a maximum of 1 mm. Return the brake unit to the normal operating pressure. Check the lower brake pad clearance again. If the brake shoe slack is greater than 2 mm, the operating pressure must be lowered to the lift-off pressure again, and the lower brake shoe slack must be reduced by turning the adjusting bolt to the left. When the brake is open, the position switches are reset by adjusting the drawbar. The lower shift must be positioned approximately 2 to 5 mm away from the lower sloping edge of the shifter rod. When the brake is closed, the position switches should be positioned as shown by the image. If this is not the case, the brake pad clearance must be rechecked and readjusted. Put the installation into operation and check that the brake shoes do not touch the braking surface. If possible, do this when the ropeway is under load. After testing the brake pad clearance and position switches must be rechecked and, if necessary, readjusted. It is important to make sure that between the installation being empty and fully loaded, the brake shoes do not touch the braking surface when the brake is opened. After the adjustment has been made, the brake force should correspond to the value determined during the final inspection and approval of the system. Read the current brake force when the brake is closed. Remove the bolt for stabilizing the position switches and the bolts on the adjustment disc. Bring the brake unit to the operating pressure and use the 17-3 ball valve to lower the pressure to the lift-off pressure. Secure the adjusting bolt and use the hook spanner to turn the disc to the right to increase the restoring force or to the left to reduce it. In general, a quarter turn is sufficient. Position the adjustment plate so that the holes are in line. Close the brake, push the adjustment plate upwards and read the brake force. If the value is not what it should be, repeat the process. Grease and refit all the bolts. Test the brakes under all the loading conditions and record the results. Remove the bolts from the adjustment plate. Screw in the opening bolts. Tighten each of the opening bolts an equal amount. Tighten the bolts until the brake shoes are released. If the damage has been repaired, bring the brake unit to its operating pressure and remove the opening bolts again. Refit and tighten the original bolt.